Good evening, students. This video is specifically for flute students, and so sometimes it's kind of hard for me to get one-on-one time with you. I thought I might make a video of some things that we've mentioned a little bit in class, maybe touched on a little bit, but I thought it might deserve a little bit more attention. And I would say, like for sixth grade, I would not implement, well, there are things about tone that would be good for you. Seventh grade, I would incorporate, you could start incorporating this at the end of the seventh grade year. Some of what we'll talk on today on vibrato is what we're going to be talking about. But towards the end of seventh grade year, if you're getting a good tone. If not, it might be beneficial to start on your eighth grade year. So first, what we're going to talk about, and I'm going to do some demonstration as well, is we're going to talk about tone. Okay, so tone is very important on any instrument and band, whether you're playing the flute, clarinet, tuba, trombone, whatever it is that you're playing, that is going to be the most important. So getting that, what we call characteristic sound, that fundamental sound, where it sounds like a flute, that the flute sounds like a flute, that the clarinet sounds like a clarinet, whatever the case may be. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to demonstrate some sounds that are not so good, and then I'm going to demonstrate a proper sound. So I'm just going to start on an easy note, and so this is something that could be beneficial for sixth graders, those just finishing up the sixth grade year, those just finishing seventh grade year, eighth grade year, or even up into high school, because sometimes there are students who make it up into high school band that still aren't getting a good sound. And there may be some simple things that if you spend a few minutes each day during your practice time, that you could improve it drastically. Or maybe you didn't realize it wasn't a good sound. So I'm just kind of honing in on it. So I'll demonstrate those and tell you some things that you can do when you're practicing at home. So I'm going to play an A, and this is going to be a not so good sound. Okay, so I've got a low note, a high note. It's not steady or even. Okay, I'm gonna make it not quite so drastic, but okay, so not a good sound. I don't have my tuner up, but if I were to look on my tuner, and so there are lots of free tuner apps that you can get in the App Store that can tell you if you're in tune or not. And I may pull one up in just a second that I have. You don't have to have that one, but there are lots of them that are good. But I would probably guess that that is flat. Okay, here's another. Plus, it wasn't a good sound. Okay, you want to have a very full sound. You want a very steady sound, and ideally, okay, if you can see, trying to make it where you can see. Okay, there's my tone hole. You ideally want that to be, and it's kind of hard to see, flat, okay, and flat on your chin. So the first time that I played, I had it rolled in. You can see that's not going to be, that hole's not going to be flat on the chin. My lip is going to be covering it up, or chin is going to be covering up more. Now, on the other hand, if you have it rolled out too far, and I'm going to try to blow across it, you're gonna get a very airy sound. So one thing you can do is you can go back to basics. You can take your head joint off of your flute and make sure you're getting that sound. So hold it with both hands, just like this. Put it under your chin, and you want that bottom rim to be right underneath that bottom lip. It may be kind of hard to see where your lip line is meeting like the rest of your chin. So not too far down and not up on the lip. Now, I would not, there was a time period where they would teach you like a kiss and roll method. I would not suggest that, because it doesn't always, when you do that, it may not get it flat enough. You may still have it up too high. So a lot of times I feel of it. Another thing you can do is you can practice doing this or holding it with your whole flute in front of like a mirror. If you've got a stand at home, like one of those foldable stands, you can put one of those mirrors like you can get at a dollar store, at Walmart. This the little square mirrors. You can set it there, and you can see what you're doing. If you don't have, if you got it lined up over here or over here, and I'm exaggerating, of course, but it is off center, you're not gonna get a good sound. Or it's gonna be really airy. So you want to get the purest sound as possible. You don't want to get the airy sound like you're blowing into through a straw or something. But I feel of it, and I've done it so long that I can feel it for like that bottom edge. Okay, so that bottom edge right here against that bottom lip. So okay, another thing you can do, because we have lots of technology these days, and most people, I'm not saying everybody, but most people has a cell phone, or have a cell phone, or maybe have access to a cell phone. Maybe a parent has one. You could record yourself playing and play it back. And most of the time, if you listen to recordings with headphones, then you can get a better sense of what it sounds like. You can hear the little bitty details. And it doesn't have to be a lot to make. You can say, "Ooh, that didn't sound good," or "That sounded great. I need to keep doing that." So even when I've been listening to recordings of band, listening to it with headphones, playing it back is going to be a great resource. So again, you want a steady sound, no airy sound. So once you can do that, you can drop using the head joint. You can put it back in here. Sometimes when we do this, and this is kind of a little bit of a review, but it's always good to go back to fundamentals that we do in 6th grade band from the start. But I'm gonna play it again. So now you want to make sure when you're holding it that you're not getting it this way or this way, just like we talked about earlier. Okay, the other thing is when you're making that sound, you want your throat to be relaxed. Okay, and a lot of times we say open. You might not know what we mean by that, but you want it to be a nice, relaxed, open sound. If you start closing up your throat, if you're tense, okay, in your throat, then it's gonna create that in your sound. So nice, relaxed, open sound, like you're saying ah or oh. Okay, so that's why we talk about that in band a lot. So you don't want to. Let's see if I can demonstrate that. So that's not a good sound, right? Okay, so that is talking about sound there. Okay, so make sure you're getting that straight tone. Okay, so now what I'm going to talk about, okay, is kind of related to that or going off of that. Okay, so the tone when you're playing, and I know I've only played like one note right there a few times, but that is the meat. Okay, that is what sounds like the flute. That's what and when each flute player plays, they're going to sound slightly different. Okay, so part of that is what you interpret the music as. So as a band director, we're there to try to get everybody on the same page, but everybody kind of has a characteristic sound. And if you think about it, everybody's mouth shape, lip shape, teeth shapes, excuse me, excuse me, are a little bit different. Okay, so because of that, it is going to it's going to sound slightly different. So we want that nice, relaxed, open sound. Now, going off of that, what we're going to talk about now, and then I'm going to spend a lot more time on, is something called vibrato. So you may have heard me mention it. Some of you may have had a little bit of experience on it. Some of you may have a lot, and then there may be some that are like, what is this strange term that you're talking about? So what vibrato is, okay, it is a way to bring a little bit of warmth to your sound. as a flute player. And so right now I'm focusing on it as a flute player, but there's a way to incorporate vibrato in other instruments as well. So if you've ever heard a singer and they're singing and there's that kind of shimmer or waving in their voice, they are creating vibrato with their voice. Okay. And so they might not do it on every note. You might hear some people that put vibrato on every note. Some people may just put it on long notes. So that is one way, is through the voice. Okay. Another that you might have heard is like on a string instrument, like a guitar or even maybe a violin. So the way that they create vibrato is by moving their fingers gently back and forth. So they're using their fingers to create the vibrato. You can do vibrato on other instruments, like when they're playing solos, etc. So I won't get into those as much, but I am going to concentrate on flute because it does provide a little bit of warmth to the sound. It gives it a little bit more maturity. And so I highly suggest, especially if you're going to be in 8th grade, if you're just finishing up your 8th grade year, that you do this. But you really need to have, I'm backtracking a little bit, you really need to have that good tone quality first, okay? Because you can add the vibrato to it, but if you don't have that good tone quality, if you have not focused on that, you're still going to be missing that part of your sound. Okay, so if it's really airy and you've got vibrato, you're still going to hear that airiness and the vibrato. So what I'm going to do, okay, is I'm going to play a little bit, and you'll have to bear with me because I don't have the stand in front of me. I've got the computer in front of me. I'll play a little bit of it's called Band Calisthenics by Mr. David Wilson, who's the director of bands at Ole Miss. I'm going to play a little bit of one of the chorales, and I'm going to play it the first time without vibrato. So I'm going to play it straight. Okay, what it's going to be like for, like, if you're a beginner band player, or maybe even beginning of 7th grade year. And then I'll pause for a second and I'll play it a second time, and I'm going to play it with vibrato. And then what we're going to do after that is I'm going to talk to you and demonstrate how you can start practicing this over your own. So since we kind of ended school a little bit different than we had hoped, this is a great time over the summer to pull your instrument out. You're probably still not getting out like you normally would, and trying this, okay? And so if you just spend like a few minutes every day doing it, it can improve greatly. And so then by the time you get back to school, you can be incorporating in that. Vibrato is definitely very useful in the concert band setting. So when you're tuning in concert band, or when you're playing in band, you're not going to use the vibrato then. When you want to use a straight tone, but when you're playing, especially something expressive, it's very useful. So the first time, this is chorale number 1 from Band Calisthenics, and I'm going to play this straight. Okay, so no waving in it, no shimmer, no warmth. It's just going to be straight. Okay, so very straight. My tone may have been a little bit airy there, so I apologize. And what you can do is you can adjust. If you hear that it's sounding a little bit airy, you can make sure that that's flat. Make sure you're not rolling your hand. I'm trying to in like this. Okay, you don't want to hang off the keys. Make sure it's not rolling like that, because if you're doing that, that affects the sound. Okay, the other thing is that head joint. Check your head joint. Make sure that it is, I don't know if I can get the whole flip in the screen, but that hole is lined up with the center of these keys, okay? And then make sure, other part, make sure, I don't know if you can see this, that this part, okay, the foot joint is lined up in the center of that bottom key. Okay, so, and that you're not doing something crazy but rolling in and out. Those hands are curved, okay, in the center. Okay, so now I'm gonna play it. Make sure that that is level with vibrato. Okay, so that waviness, it gives a little bit of shimmer. Okay, and so that is one of those things, they're kind of discussions in the flute world about vibrato, but the main thing, and differences of hands. Okay, so as a musician, you can choose a little bit of what you do with the vibrato, and you can vary how fast or slow that you do it in parts of music to make it more musical. So you can use that and you can work with that, but it will take a little bit of time. So at first, when you start doing it, you're gonna feel awkward. A great time to do it, especially when you come back, is when you're going through those warm-ups, okay, and long tones. Start doing it on anything that, like, you can do it on whole notes first, okay? Then once you start feeling more comfortable with that, you can do it on half notes, okay? So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna teach you. So you need to make sure that you're taking a good breath, okay, like you probably learned in beginner band. So breathing in, like through the mouth. And when you do that, and I know you can't see everything in the picture, but my stomach should go out, okay? It should inflate like a beach ball. Probably not that big for all of y'all, but inflate like a beach ball, become bigger around. So that means you got to be sitting up nice and straight. Okay, so when you do this, you're going to use, and this is where there's kind of another discussion in the flute world. You want to try to do it with your diaphragm. Okay, there's another discussion that maybe some of it's done between like your diaphragm and your throat. Okay, so I would just kind of say, to be safe, let's practice doing that with the diaphragm. You're not doing this with your chin, okay? You're not wiggling your chin to create this vibrato. If you are doing that when you first try to do it, then you're doing it wrong, okay? And that's really gonna affect your sound in a negative way. So what you're gonna do is I would suggest first with your air, with your diaphragm, you're gonna puff the air like you're saying ha, ah, okay? So you can, in the privacy of your own room or wherever you practice, you can practice going ha. And so I'm gonna practice that on a note. You wanna pick an easy note. You don't wanna pick something really high or extremely low. You might wanna start on like an A or a G. I'll just do, let me do a G now. I've been doing A when I did this earlier. Let's do this one. We're good. Okay, so I'm almost like puffing my air so much, okay, that it almost sounds like you're going to another note, okay, or you could crack the note. So, and then, so you're going to do that for a while, okay? You can practice it on all different notes. Let's try F. Do it again. Okay, so those are quarter notes. Okay, another thing you can do, I'm not going to do that now, but you can set a metronome, or actually no, I may do it a little bit. You can set a metronome and do it to that and increase the speed. That's one way you can do it. I'm also going to teach you how I learned it. Okay, so right then we were doing a quarter note. Let me set my metronome. I'm going to set it for like 70. Okay. You can see the little lights maybe flashing. It is clicking. Okay, so you want to stay with that right on the clicks. Let's do G. 2, ready. Okay, so once you can master that and do that, you can bump it up. Okay, I'm gonna exit out of this for a second. Mine, okay, if you look on here, I don't know if you can see. Okay, so it is this one with the circle. Oh, right there. Okay, it is called TE Tuner. I think I ended up having to pay for this one because that is the one that has a smiley face. But there are others. There's INS Tuner, I think with a capital T. There's another free one, but you can look for a tuner. There are some that give you an option to change it for your instrument, so it'll show like what note you're playing, so that can be helpful for brass. But with flute we're in C, so that doesn't matter as much. So you can set the tuner, and then you can gradually bump it up once you've mastered it. So you don't want to rush it, but you can bump it up like 2, and see if you can stay with it. Bump it up 2 more after you master it, and so you can get it faster and faster. Okay, that's one way. I think that that's a great way to do it, but I'm going to teach you the way that I learned. So we were doing quarter notes. Okay, then what I learned to do when I first learned to do it is after I felt comfortable doing quarter notes, like you could do the band calisthenics and quarter notes. So let me try it that way. I'm going to start after the grand pause. If you happen to have this at home, you go, sorry. So that's quarter notes. So after you feel like you've mastered that, you can practice a lot with warm-up exercises or anything that's etudes that have longer notes in it. Once you feel comfortable with that, then you can speed it up to 8th notes. Okay, so then what I'm doing is I'm going ha 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 or ha ha. So in this one, we have half notes and 2 whole notes. But you would be pulsing the 8th note, so you do 4 on each half note. So let's do an A, and I'm going to do the 8th note. Okay, so you want to do that. So if I'm to play it in 8th notes, and you could even do a metronome with that too, because you can. Some of them give it where it can break the beats down into 8th notes. So we're going to do the band calisthenics in 8th notes. I kind of sped it up on that last one. Next, what I would do is I'd do triplets. So 3, okay, per beat. So I'm gonna do it this way. So the quicker you can do it, the more smoother it sounds. So that's what you want to be a goal. But as you're playing pieces, you can speed up and slow down the vibrato to make it more musical. So this is the band calisthenics with triplets. Okay. Okay, and then the next step I would say is do 16th notes. Okay, so you're thinking in your head 1 E and a 2 E and a like that. Okay, so in 16th notes. Sorry. So that is like in a nutshell speeding it up. Okay, so again, you can do that with a metronome to help too. And I hope that is helpful. I hope that makes sense. But you're using your diaphragm to produce that. It could be a tab in the throat, but you do not want to. Let me emphasize that again. You do not want to make sounds with your throat. Okay, you want to open, relax throat. Okay, you want that great tone first, which is created by an open, relaxed throat. Okay, then you want to have so you get that nice ringing sound, and then you add the vibrato on top of it to give it warmth. Okay, and so once you do that, you are using your diaphragm. You are not making any kind. You're not making a grunt or a click or a singing sound with your throat. This is all done with your air. Okay, again, not with your chin quivering, because I've seen people do that, so that's not correct, but with your air. Okay, and then the last thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play a different crowd. Okay, so once you get better with this, like I said, I would start incorporating it on the whole notes and then work to half notes, and then you can even put it on quarter notes and eighth notes. But I'm going to play a different chorale that's not just half notes and whole notes. This is chorale number 3 from Band Calisthenics and David Wilson's. And I'm going to do it without the repeats, okay? So I hope you found that helpful. Feel free to get in touch with me if you need any help with that. I'm glad to answer any questions, but I thought it might be beneficial to get a more in-depth video on that. Okay, so again, other resources like this, I can see myself in the mirror, not the mirror, sorry. You can watch yourself in a mirror, but you can also video record yourself and you can look at how you're playing. Okay, another thing I did not mention, I did talk about this being flat across for that good sound. You don't want to play like this. Okay, that's not a true sound, that's just air passing around or across the hole. So that's an exaggeration, but sometimes you have people that are playing with it too low, and that sacrifices their sound. I know in marching band we do straight across, but if you got it lifted too high, it's hard to get a straight sound that way. So tone, okay, tone is one of the main things, okay, that can make or break you. Then that vibrato can add to it as well. Okay, so if you're still struggling making that characteristic sound in 6th grade or beginning of 7th grade, now's not the time to work on vibrato. Okay, work on that sound first and then add it later once you're ready. So thank you, and I hope this is beneficial, and have a great summer working on this.